Hi guys, I'm Dan and welcome back to Bard of the Red Hand. Today, we're going to go over some theories for the Amazon series as a whole, and mostly based off of the last episode, Blood Calls Blood. Quick reminder though, this can have, and probably will have, spoilers for the entire book series and all the episodes up through episode 5. So if you don't want anything spoiled, now's your chance to step away. Alright, so theory number 1 has to do with Moraines' quarters and that weird picture tableau thing that she has on the wall that it kept panning to and slowly going towards and stopping on. We see at the end of the episode, Moraine goes over there and opens it, and there's a woman in blue facing away, looking into the distance. Now, this is right after she has a conversation with Alana, who is telling her that Siuan Sanche is coming back, Siuan Sanche being the Amerlin seat, is coming back from Caemlyn and is looking for blood, looking to blame someone for the whole, Logain deal and Korean Sedai dying. So keep in mind that that is very critical to this theory. All right, so we know in the book series, Siuan Sanche and Moraine are actually very close privately, but they keep that on the down low. They don't talk publicly because people don't want them to know that they're in a scheme together to find the Dragon Reborn, because they both overheard the foretelling about it. That being said, they've always had to keep their communications on the sly or coded. I think that is what this particular painting is. I think that it is a coded message to Moraine from Siuan Sanche, probably saying, A, I'm on my way back. Publicly, I have to turn my back on you, but privately, I still have your back. As you can see, it is a woman in blue with her back to the viewer, i.e., probably Siuan Sanche, who in the books at least was of the blue Ajah before being raised to the Amerlin seat, has her back to Moraine, looking into the distance, probably looking at the goal ahead. So that's the theory. I think that this painting, whether it be a ter'angreal or something more mundane where they actually have to physically put a different picture in there, is a way for Moraine and potentially Siuan Sanche to communicate with each other without letting everybody know. Theory number 2, and this one's a wild one, is that Eamon Valda is immune to the One Power. Now hear me out, I don't think he's truly immune. I think that much like Matt gets in the books eventually, I think he has some kind of a ter'angreal on him that keeps him from being affected by weaves that are directly supposed to touch him. Now, if someone were to pick up a rock and throw it at him, I think it would still work. But notice when Egwene casts her little fireball weave at him, it doesn't even burn or singe the white cloth that he has. It doesn't do anything. It just kind of gets to him, and then poof, it fizzles out. That is very reminiscent of what happens with Matt's ter'angreal later in the books. Now, do I think that Eamon Valda knows that this is a ter'angreal, knows that it has to do with power? Probably not. It could be something that's handed down to questioners. It could be something from his past, from like one of his parents or something. I don't know. But the wild ass theory here is that he's got a ter'angreal just like that wolf head medallion. Yes, I know. I just said wolf head medallion, fox head medallion that has the Aes Sedai symbol for the eye. I know. But I'm going ahead and making this instead of cutting that out to remind you that he also has captured multiple Aes Sedai, as evident by the rings. I think Moraine says 7 to be exact. Kind of hard to do that if you can be touched by the power easily. Just supports my theory. All right, so the next 2 theories kind of go hand in hand with each other and both involve Liandrin and the red Ajah and the black Ajah. So we'll start with the first one. I think that the showrunners, in an effort to cut down on the amount of characters and cast they have to do, are combining Liandrin and Elaida. Think about it. We're not getting the Caemlyn scenes. We're not getting introduced to Elaida early, Elaida or her foretelling. So there's that aspect of this. We haven't seen her yet. And I think this might be a way to cut her out. If you notice, Alana Sedai is talking about, hey, a lot more sisters and not just Reds are starting to listen and buy into what Liandrin's saying. So she's building a power base around her. Do you think that's just to go gentle more men? No, I think she has grander designs, potentially trying to take over the White Tower as the next Amerlin seat. Conversely, we haven't gotten anything out of Elaida, so I think they're kind of tying those two together. So what's the major problem with that? Well, in the books, Elaida, while being a hard-to-like character, to put it nicely, was not Black Ajah. She still had the world's best interests in her mind, whereas Liandrin was Black Ajah. So how do you fix those two? Well, that leads into the second part of this theory. So the second part of this theory is that not all of the Black Ajah and Dark Friends that we know from the books are going to be Black Ajah in the TV series. And I think that what that does is it allows book readers to have something to speculate on. We don't know everything. Kind of like, they're setting up all the Emmonsfielders or Two Rivers folk as potentially being the Dragon Reborn, giving us that sense of doubt like, okay, well, we know it's Rand, but are they going to keep it Rand? So I think they will. Let's get that out of the way. But I think with the Black Sisters, it's going to be a little more give and take. It's not the main character who the story revolves around, so they can change those a little bit. I think for the most part, they're going to change a lot of them, or at least give them different names so we don't necessarily know who they are. So I don't think Liandrin's going to be a Black Sister. But I do think that a certain Brown Sister, when she's introduced, is actually going to be Black Ajah, because there's just too much later on that revolves around her decisions and what she does in that role, as well as who she tells in the end. All right, so speaking on, the darker side of things, let's go ahead and just jump into the Forsaken. So we all know that there was already 8 idols instead of 13 like there are in the books when it comes to Forsaken. There's 13 Forsaken in the books. Here, when he has the Forsaken idols that Steppen is putting his smudge stick around, there's only 8 there. So that was something that was very telling. And it's something I kind of already thought. I do believe that they are combining some of the Forsaken. I already said in the previous one that I think that for Baalzamon, the man in the dreams, who is Ishmael in the books as well, is a combination of Ishmael, Agenor, and Bothamel. Makes sense physically the way that they've shown him. That makes sense. And honestly, it kind of makes sense with the book series, considering when they all fight and when they are all introduced in the books. And honestly, the whole continuation of the story for Agenor and Bothamel doesn't add that much to the story. There's a couple little things that are interesting that it adds, but I'm sure that you can work around that in other ways. So sorry guys, I don't think we're going to see Arengar and Osengar. That being said, let's take a look at these idols one by one and start talking about who I think they are. And some of them are, one for one, that person, I think, and others, I think they're going to have a chance to combine them. So let's start with that central idol, Ishmael. Has the flames in the eyes and the mouth. At least I think those are flames. I don't see anything similar on any of the other idols. It's the only thing that looks like, okay, that was intentionally put there for a reason to say, hey, this is the guy in the dreams. Like I said, if you look at him in the dreams, he does look like his face has kind of elements of both the way that Agenor and Bothamel are described in the books. So I do think that he is a combination of all 3 of those characters. But notice, directly to his right, there's a woman. Tall, regal even. And it's technically on his left to the right of the screen. I truly believe that that's an idol for Lanfear, who we'll get to see later. Now, there are no distinguishing factors. One of the problems is there's no coloration to these, so I can't tell if, one has blonde hair versus black hair, or fair skin versus dark skin. But just the way that she holds herself, and has like this little gem or something right here. It just screams Lanfear compared to the other Forsaken idols that are on this table. So, like I said, think that's Lanfear. I think it's just Lanfear. I think she stays the same. Immediately to her left, our right, is an interesting one, because this one is an idol of a male Forsaken holding a guitar. Now, much like Tom in the books, this Forsaken was a musician. Now, he plays the harp in the books, but just like Tom Morellan has been changed to the guitar, I think they're changing this particular Forsaken, who is Asmodean, to playing the guitar as well. Well-known musician in the Age of Legends, and I think that is just him. So now we'll pan over to the far right, our far right end, the far left end of the table, and start looking at those. And you see a woman who is standing there, an idol of a woman who's standing there, very voluptuous, a lot of curves going on there, a lot of implying, overt sexuality. I think that's Grandal. I don't think that really could be anything else. I mean, I guess I could potentially see Lanfear, because she likes to use her physical attributes for her betterment too, but Grandal was always the more upfront about, so I'm really sure that that's Grandal. So now we got the one that's in between, who I think is Grandal and Asmodean, and that is who I think is actually Robin. I think that it's just something about the facial features reminds me of the artwork I used to see back in the day, like in the Big White Book and things of that nature of Robin. However, I don't think he's singular. I think he's going to be combined with Demon Dread. Do you want to know why? I don't have any supporting evidence behind it. It's just kind of a gut feeling. The characters seem to kind of align for some reason. And I think the biggest reason I have is I think they're going to quash and get rid of the whole Shara aspect that is introduced in the last 3 books. It comes out of nowhere. It's even as a reader, I went, oh, great, Easterlings. And I think that they're probably going to avoid that comparison. So I think that that whole Shara thing is going to be pushed to the side. Now, whether this person will be called Ravine or Demon Dread, I don't know. Could be either one. Additionally, they might be taking Demon Dread and combining with Robin to keep you from having the confusion between that Forsaken's name and Moraine Damondred's name getting confused. They're pretty close words, so it would make sense from a showrunner aspect to kind of change, if nothing else, change that name from Demon Dread to something else. Now let's pan to the other side of Elon, Morin, Tedranai, if you will, or Ishmael, and see that there is a much shorter, bearded Forsaken there. Now, this particular Forsaken wasn't necessarily short. He just felt like he would always he was about average height in the Age of Legends, and always felt like, man, people would take him more seriously if we were a little taller. I'm mad that I can't use the 1 power to make me just a little bit taller. I do think that is Samael. However, I again think that this is combined. I think this is Samael and Baal rolled into one. Reason being, you don't really get a lot of Baal in the books. There's not a lot of story development with him. You can kind of say the same about Samael, but you know, there was always a little more of that Samael threat in the books, overtly. And I think that him being shorter and having that beard is an allusion to that. So if nothing else, this is Samael, but I do think it's Samael and Baal kind of combined. Continuing down the left side of the table, or should I say the right side of the table, left side for us, you get to 2 more women idols for the Forsaken. And really, you can kind of throw these in any way. You have 3 Forsaken left. And what I've chosen is for the first of these, the one without the hat, is I think that it is Masana and Samira Hag. I have to go back and look up whether that's a hard or soft G. But I think it's those particular 2 Forsaken combined, because you do get a little bit of bleed over between, in the books. It's hard to kind of tell those 2 apart. So I think that what we're seeing, or what I think we're going to see, is that some of the Forsaken that are only big for like 1 scene or in 1 book are going to be combined with other ones. But then you have other Forsaken, Ishmael, you know, Lanfear, who have parts across multiple books. I think they're going to stay as 1 person. That leads us to the last one, who I think is Mogadine. And the reason I think she's Mogadine, she just reminds me, I don't know if it's just the fact that there's those lines in the skirt and that's making me think of a spider web, as Mogadine was the spider. But something about that particular one leads me to believe that's Mogadine. So there you go, guys. There are my theories based off of the first 5 episodes of The Wheel of Time, and you know, specifically the 5th one a lot, and who I think those idols of the Forsaken are, and where I think the showrunners are going to combine some things. Again, these are just theories. Just get yourself thinking about it. This is just theories I came up with. You know, you can say I pulled them out of my 4th point of contact, whatever. There's some research behind it. There's some, oh, well, that's a Forsaken holding a musical instrument. It's probably the Forsaken that was a musician. So there is some deductive reasoning and some analytics behind it. But I do think they're going to shorten it. And I think that this way is a plausible one. Is it going to be perfect? Probably not. I'm sure that 4 of these are probably going to be wrong and everybody's going to laugh at me in the comments. Nonetheless, go ahead and leave a comment. Don't forget to click like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you're notified whenever I come out with new content. And until next time, which will be tomorrow, have a good day.